All right, well, welcome back to another episode of LorcanaChats. I am Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and with me today I have another repeat guest. Previously, she was on whenever I talked to the entire Love to Lore crew, um, but I wanted to get a chance to catch up with her individually and just kind of, sit down and see what's been going on with her lately. So, Sarah, would you like to kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
Hello, my name is Sarah. If you're on Instagram, you know me as Lorcana Librarian, and if you're on X or Twitter, if you're savvy, I would be a lore librarian on that platform. And also, if you're on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms, I am hosting a podcast called The Lore Library.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great show.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I appreciate the work that you put in on it. It's been an enjoyable listen so far, and I look forward to the
Yeah.
future episodes. But so we won't get into the whole origin story as much as I normally do, since that was kind of in the previous video. Um, you said, let's see, I'm trying to remember. You've been playing since the first set,
Oh, yeah.
first chapter? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. And what was it like your first exposure into it? I kind of forget I remember us talking about, you being a big Disney Parks fan, big Disney fan, and kind of getting into it a little bit that way. But was there like one first kind of, hey, this looks like a really cool game that, point that you found out about it?
So I had heard, whisperings about that it was coming out. My partner was like, "Oh, there's a trading card game that's Disney based because he is deeply invested into trading card games," and was like, "Here's the one that will get me invested as well." And so I had kind of heard about it, but what got me hooked was the D23 coverage, seeing the actual art
Right.
on the cards, reading the play lines, and like having a real like tangible idea of how this was going to play made me very, very excited.
Nice. Yeah, it's amazing to me to hear, the people that I talk to, how many of them are, there from the very beginning. It was like, I think I remember reading about it at one point and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And then it just straight out. And then didn't get back
Yeah.
into it until Floodborne. Um, but yeah, the people that were like even creating content back before it came out, it's crazy to me that there was that level of interest and so many people just really looking at it and getting really excited about the future of the game when it was just, basically brand new.
Yeah.
So
I was excited as a Disneyland content person. That's a highly saturated market. And so I was doing mid at best at my Disneyland content. And I was going, I live in Oregon, so I was going once a month and then getting a bunch of content and then putting that out during the month and like repeating that, kind of going back. And it was so difficult to get traction in that space and kind of find your community because even though we're all parks people, it was kind of, which is great that there was a lot of diversity, but also to that, when you're a very small content person in a very big pool that's very diverse, it's kind of hard to find your people. So when
yeah,
the Lorcana product, the Disney Lorcana product came out, I started being like, well, this is a good way to find my part of the Disney content corner, right? The people who are into board games or gaming culture, TCGs, and also into, the Disney adult Disney lifestyle was where I was
Mhm.
hoping I was going to find my Venn diagram here and be like, well, this is what the content space maybe I should be exploring because it isn't so saturated and it's a good opportunity to find your people.
Yeah, yeah. So this isn't your first attempt at content creation.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if I ever knew that, actually.
Yeah,
That's
see,
kind of
yeah.
interesting.
There's a depth and breadth to me. It's the gift that I have of being in my ancient years that I'm in. My elder millennial Gen X. I don't know what I can claim. I think I'm Gen X, but I would love to be a millennial. But however, because with that comes a lot of experience and yeah, if you want a great story, you remember Life Journal? Are you older enough for Live
Oh
Journal?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes,
had
I
a
am.
Disneyland vlog on LiveJournal that I would use my like really bad flip phone to take photos in the park and put onto there.
Right.
So yeah, I go way back. There was a installation that they did with like these giant Mickeys. They were like re kind of resin giant Mickeys that they painted and put
Hmm.
several of them around the parks. And I was known for doing a piece that was like all of those kind of photos and put together and to show the world who couldn't come because they didn't have an annual pass that like I did because I was originally from Southern California. So I was going
Okay.
3, 4 times a week.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
I was committed. Yeah.
But you don't do any of that stuff anymore. You're just straight up Lorcana, right?
Yeah, it's weird. I thought I would do both. I thought I would do a lot of Lorcana content in the park, but as it turns out, Lorcana took away my park budget. So that's fine. I'm fine with it, but it
Yeah.
just turned
Yeah.
out to be more than I imagined it would be in the beginning. I thought I would never even buy like a booster box, that I would just buy starter decks and like a couple of booster packs and kind of alter it around and have a little fun with it.
Hmm.
But no, 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 no. I got in real deep. I think my partner knew. And now he's joyfully along for the ride. So it's been really fun. It's a
Yeah.
fun thing to do
Yep.
together, you know what I mean? Because we get to go to the DLC together. It's his first one. And
Nice.
I'm very excited. Yeah, because at least we're in Seattle. It's close enough that we can just kind of hop on a train up there and he can take
Yeah.
a little, yeah. Can't take
Yeah.
time off work as much, but it's nice.
Nice. Well,
Here's
and
our chance.
speaking
I
of
get to show him around.
Seattle, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Seattle, you are actually going to be judging there this
Yes.
weekend.
Yeah. I was joking earlier that I'm going to be getting my playset of DLC judging experience because this will be my fourth one.
Mhm.
My first was Chicago. I did Fort Worth, Las Vegas, and now closing it out with Seattle. So
Nice.
not bad.
Nice.
Not bad way to end the season.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how has your experience been as a judge at these multiple events? I'm sure you've had different situations to deal with just because, I mean, it's different crowds at different
Right.
places and, you know,
Nothing's ever perfect, right?
right,
So
right.
what I've really enjoyed is going from Chicago all the way through, I've just seen Las Vegas. We've yet to experience Seattle, but just to see the improvements made. PPG being so dedicated to making this a quality event and every time taking everyone's feedback and kind of developing plans to make it a better event to see over time, to see that growth has been really, really fun. I think for me, my experience also in terms of growth has been good because I came in a rookie. This is my first competitive TCG. I mean, I played Magic back in the year 2000 when I was in grad school with my, study group for fun. But this was the first time that I really, prior to judging a DLC in Chicago, I was of the notion that I would get a golden Mickey. I would compete, I would be at that level, and that was for me. Um, but I also really like shiny objects. So I'm a collector, if it wasn't apparent. Go to the leagues to collect all the pins and the promos and whatnot. So the idea that there might be judge promos in the future was a very shiny object to me that made me think, well, if I start dedicating myself to learning the rules and being, in the judge circle and dedicating myself to really studying and being up to all the things that change and the tournaments and dedicating instead of being a competitor at these events and that level, instead kind of making it a fair and accessible space for
Mhm.
everyone like myself to approach. I know previously we talked about Love to Lore and its function there in terms of creating that safe space for marginalized genders and breaking down that barrier to entry to like a competitive space. And so I just thought, well, how do I enhance that? Not necessarily as a competitor may not be the way, but like as a judge to maybe make sure that we're making a sustainable, fair environment where everyone can compete at the same table, essentially.
Hmm. Yep. And literally. at the same
Yeah,
table.
exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
Unless you have fixed seating, which you need. So hey, and
Yeah,
it's
this is true.
accommodations are there and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see. I managed to make it to Atlanta, but it's been really interesting from at least an outsider's perspective to see how much they're changing these things over time and how much community input and feedback they're really taking to heart and actually making those changes, making upgrades, I guess, to the to the events
Yeah.
and really, really working to make sure that it actually works for the people that want to attend. That it's not just in some random part of the city, it's actually, someplace relatively centrally located, so that you can have stuff to do and places to go and, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
It was very fun having the Las Vegas trip. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
cornucopia of experiences.
Had you been to Vegas before?
Oh yeah, living in Southern California, that was another
Yeah.
one of if I wasn't at Disneyland, I was at Vegas. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. I used to play a fair amount of blackjack. So, which is
Okay.
what led to me being a Steel Sapphire player because I like to keep track of what's in the deck, what's coming, and kind of calculate, over calculate, maybe. I don't know. Steel
Hey,
Sapphire and me are fighting right now, so did not win me a
okay.
Mirabelle. So
Oh no.
yeah.
Well, don't I didn't either. I actually came in ninth at my locals, which was it was tough. That was a hard one.
I was 14 out of 15 at one of them. So
Oh,
I almost
how
preferred. I'm
many?
like, I would have wished it just been last.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
So
then it's like, oh well,
I'm
how many
so
did
out of
you
practice. It's okay.
how many
Sorry.
did you get to play in?
Just two.
Okay.
Yeah. And because of the Seattle weekend and the lead up and whatnot.
Right.
And it's just,
Right.
yeah, just so many things going on. But my partner did win one. He got top four. So
Oh,
proud of that.
nice.
Yeah,
And what did
exactly.
he play?
He played Amethyst Steel. He has the
Okay.
entire set, so the entire year. So he's just honing that in, just control and bounce, and it's terrible. He loves Arthur. That's a secret weapon.
Okay.
It's
All
wild.
right.
Yeah, having him Arthur a goat is never fun. I don't
Yeah,
know if
I'm
you're
sure.
familiar with the Arthur,
Hmm.
which yeah, he bounces and gives you extra two floor, and it's not cute.
Yep. Yep.
And then when that's
It's
a
nice when
goat
it
happening,
works.
yeah,
Well, it's nice when it works for, for the
for the
person playing it,
bouncer.
not
Yeah,
not so
yeah,
much
yeah.
the opponent. Yeah.
For the Still
Yeah.
Sapphire player, not exciting. Not exciting times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just sitting there watching it like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Great. Love that Arthur. And he's like,
Well,
and then I bounce
so
it back. I'm like, oh no, he's safe.
as a judge, have there been any kind of like interesting situations or interesting calls that you had to make? I mean, I'm sure there probably has been for most of the judges, but I'm curious about your experience.
Yeah, so for myself, yes, I think I may have thought of this and derailed myself with side chan tangents. But one of the growth things that happened was I came in, a newbie,
Mhm.
and then graduated into the last few times I've been my team's lead. So
Hmm.
that's been kind of like a
Okay.
phenomenal thing. Somebody that I work with, he was my lead and kind of like took me under his wing and showed me the ropes, and I learned from him. And I let go a lot of my skills to that guy because he was very, very, very good at just being very patient and teaching, you know what I mean? And as a leader,
Mhm.
teaching you to be a leader, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so being in that position, I've always held the same position, which is being on the deck check team, essentially.
Okay.
And so for me, I've had very specialized calls, I would guess, you would say, in terms of like little nuances that I think people don't think about. Like one of the things to really think about is that when you have your cards and you're sleeving your cards, let's say you want to protect like your really rare valuable ones and so you double sleeve those but then the rest of the cards aren't. Well, those cards are going to be thicker and they're going
Right.
to sit differently on the pile, and so you're going to be asked to like re-sleeve so that everything is consistent and you'll get a
Hmm.
warning for that and whatnot. And I think people just don't think about that ahead of time. Or another thing is like, oh, I need to re-sleeve, so I'll grab a new box of these sleeves and they'll have some on hand and they're kind of like taking from like two different stacks. Well, they're gonna have like
Oh
a different
yeah.
cut pattern on the side or a different
Right.
color batch or a different printer. Just could be anything. Like Dragon Shields, just because they say Dragon Shield, they're made from, multiple different manufacturers across the board. And so you're going to have inconsistencies in batching, which can then lead to you having to re-sleeve the entire thing to make sure they're all consistent.
Hmm.
So those have been like the interesting judge calls I've had is that people are just like, it's not necessarily things they're doing on purpose to cheat at all. Not at all. It's always just like, oh, I didn't realize I could do this, you know what I mean? Or
Hmm.
like that I couldn't do this. And when you explain it to them and give them the education of why it's not allowed, they're, like, oh, okay, cool, I get it. But it's just like walking in, it's like rough to have that, like when you're competing and then like have that come down on you, like because you're not realizing it and maybe it puts you in a different headspace for a bit or whatnot. So I just want
Hmm.
people to be educated and know about those things as well, but also like yeah, when you're talking about interesting judge calls, I would say that would be like some of the more interesting things. There's just the player education that you just don't, the things you don't think of. What you don't know, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and especially with so many people, this being their first TCG,
yeah.
they're brand new to the game, they're brand new to DLC type events,
Yeah.
I uh I remember when I was planning on going to Atlanta, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get these sleeves and well, they're under a bunch of stuff now, but um I ordered them and they're like, bright red. And I was like, oh, these will be perfect, and then I got it and I put the card in the sleeve and you could completely see the logo through the back. I was
Yeah.
like,
They weren't the
oh,
opaque.
crap.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I had to run down to my LGS and, pick up some Dragon Shields real quick and
Yeah.
um
Pivot.
fortunately they come, what are these? These are 100 a box. So,
Yeah.
us having the 60 card decks, it makes it nice to have that many extras now. Not enough to resleeve the entire deck, but which I'm sure happens.
Yeah. And there are folks that they come with some very, and that was the other thing. Don't bring your tried and true battle tested deck that is highly worn,
Yeah.
maybe dirty, things like that. Just a fresh resleeve, is highly recommended.
Yeah.
And that they're consistent. And a final note, which is always the sad thing to have to say, make sure they're appropriate.
Yeah, I
And I
know.
understand there are licensed products from
Mhm.
other franchises that are fine for that franchise. And I don't mind. That's fine. Good on them. However, in the Disney space, which is a family game, all
Mhm.
ages, some sleeves we cannot allow. So keep that in mind, and your mat choices as well. That there are
Yeah.
community guidelines. And while those sleeves and mats are not against the corrective tournament rules per se, they're not in the comprehensive rule document. It is in the community guideline document. So
Yeah.
there's that. So
Yeah.
news you can use. So
Yeah,
those are my
yeah, definitely.
those are my interesting judge calls. You want to talk about interesting judge calls is having to be like can you put that mat away, please?
Yeah,
And they're like,
yeah.
okay. And then they pull out a Mickey Mouse one, and I'm like, you should just had that one out to begin with, silly. But
Yeah,
hey,
exactly. I mean, it's Disney. It should have been obvious, but I guess
hey,
not. Yeah.
when you're out with your homies, you want to do what you want to do. So I'm not going to judge anybody
Yeah.
for what they're
Yeah.
doing. But at the DLC, you have to follow community guidelines, and that's fine. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I hadn't been to, because I like you, I played Magic, forever ago. Very little bit of it. Wasn't really like involved in the community or anything. But um so, Atlanta was a completely new experience to me. And so you just don't know exactly 100% what is going to happen, what to expect, and that's why I appreciate you and Enchanted Kim putting together that DLC guide. That was great. That was perfect, especially for, like I said, so many new players coming into it. Where did you get the idea for that?
so Kim and I think I don't know who to give the Nexus credit to. It was kind of like a joint effort, but it was just this thing of like the the questions we constantly either I get asked or she is someone who attends. had. And like there the information is there. PPG does put it there, but it is in like multiple places, Discord, Facebook, the PPG
Mhm.
info website, the emails that they sent you, what's on the melee, descriptions, all of these things. And so to find a way to digest all of that, put it all into one place where people could just access that on a PDF on their phone while they're at the DLC to like refer to. And also like my experience as a judge, just having a lot of people be really anxious. And like my huge thing is accessibility and
Mhm.
making sure this game is accessible. So anything I can do to limit that anxiety is great. I'm a travel agent by trade. I have certification in autism and disability travel. And a piece that I
Okay.
use for that is visual guide. So when I send clients or whatever to Disneyland, I give them like a visual guide, what to expect. This is what the gate looks like. You're going to hand them their ticket. You're going to walk through this. And it's like a step by step to kind of like lower that anxiety and
Hmm.
lower and just that kind of being able to make the routine and the plan and visualizing that is a huge thing for helping. So that I was trying to recreate that piece in this space, not necessarily that clinical of a piece, but just in a way to like have everyone who needs accessibility, which should just be a wide, the document should speak to everyone, right? So
Yep.
to have something that is accessible that people can feel less anxiety and then, break down that barrier to entry. And then also for people to be successful, the worst thing was to have folks who just didn't know where to go or what to do and therefore
Mhm.
have a bad experience. And so I love the Disney Lorcana Challenge. Everyone gets together. The energy there is unreal. We all get to see each other. We talk to each other all month online, and it's the time we get to all get together and we celebrate our champions. Our Disney sports heroes are up there doing their thing, and it's great. Someone pulls a "Be Prepared" and the room cheers. Like what? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So to be able to bring as many people into that space and let them know that it's okay, you are welcome in this space. And here's
Mhm.
everything you need to do to navigate it successfully, as well as not get penalized for things you didn't know. Be able to get the tickets you want to get for the prizes you want to get, or
Mhm.
realistically plan to not. Some people like have these lofty goals of like, I'm gonna walk away with a Cinderella mat, but they don't have the math of like what that actually looks like to grind out 90 tickets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
Which
just
is a
being able to
lot.
like, yeah, help people with their expectations will help for the quality of the event. And I think if we have quality events, we'll have a sustainable product. And if we have a sustainable product, I get to keep playing with my Disney friends and talking about my Disney stuff. And it's all for me. And it's a very, very selfish thing that I'm doing.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate y'all putting that together. I've definitely shared it with some folks that, we're unsure about it. They sometimes that kind of stuff is the difference between them actually getting a ticket and not getting a ticket,
Yeah.
completely. It's like, the uncertainty is huge. And especially for people new to the game, new to the community, new to, the whole thing, really. So I used to speak a lot at conferences. And so, I thought, oh, well, it's just going to be kind of like the same situation. There's going to be a lot of people there, um, but you're not really prepared for, kind of the experience of it all. I remember the first day, in Atlanta that I walked into the room and I was like, oh, it's a giant room. It's, there's lots of people around. But then the player meeting, that first meeting started and everybody sat down and I started looking around the room and I was like, holy cow, there are a lot of people here in a very small space because it was, half the room for the competitive
Yeah.
area. And then of course, halfway through the first day, I think Melee went down for a little while and so it was just this whole kind of new experience. I think having a guide like this at that time would have been great. I totally would have,
Yeah.
would have been like, yeah, I'm printing this out, I'm taking it with me, or having it on my phone or whatever. But yeah, no, it's a great guide. And I'll definitely make sure
Yeah.
and link it in the notes for the show. So.
Yeah. I'm working on editing it today. I'm actually literally like in the middle of edits, so it'll be new and improved because a lot of things have changed. Especially like the way
Mhm.
you get to meet a illustrator, things like that. So just want to make sure everything's up to date. But yeah, I am very excited for next year. Like once we actually look at all this data and we like get new DLCs, like the growth is going to be phenomenal. So
Yep, yep. And I appreciate them putting, so many together for this year. But I really can't wait to see, I mean, with the growth of the community, the growth of the game, to see how it looks, next year for where they end up and, what they look like that, with the constant improvement, who knows what they're going to look like,
yeah.
a year from now. But
Yeah, especially if you look at every set, we're getting like more and more ridiculous with the meta. Like it's very exciting with these Azurite Sea Sapphire cards. Like, yeah, us who play Sapphire Steel are very excited today. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
Oh
oh,
my gosh.
Microbots, Ariel,
Yeah. The
Maurice,
reveals.
go.
I can't keep up. I mean, honestly, it's
Right?
just so
Yeah.
much right now. It's crazy. But I mean, it's coming, relatively soon. So they've got to
Two
really
more
start,
weeks. Yeah.
pumping it out. Yep. Yeah.
So, are you more in the camp of I would rather just open packs and be surprised by the cards, or do you do the reveal season, watch the online reveal stuff?
Oh, I totally watch the reveal stuff.
Okay, okay.
I even was fortunate enough this year to be able to reveal one myself. The that training dummy card that gives everything or anything bodyguard, any of the characters bodyguard. It's not super great, for as far as playability,
I feel like
but
it is.
it has some
Yeah.
interesting uses. So,
I feel like it is because as a Steel Sapphire player, I like to put out Ariel, who quests for 5 if I have more items than you. Now
mhm,
she has Ward unexerted. The second I quest with her, I'm like, oh Lord, help her. So usually I like to have a Chenpo out, right? But he costs
mhm,
5. And that's conditional. Is he in your hand? All these other things, right? Did you have to ink him earlier? Meh. So the ability, what was that card? 2 cost, right?
two
You're
cost. Yep.
yeah,
Hmm.
to be able to, and it's inkable, correct?
Hmm.
Like,
Yep.
so I can ink it if I don't need it, or for 2, I can just turn someone into a bodyguard. Like, that's sick. I
Yeah.
like it. Is it highly competitive? No. Can I use it? Yes. So
Yep. Yep.
exactly. Like I would love to just yeah, instead of because with Fortisphere, you have to pay the 1 and get rid of the Fortisphere. Well, now if I
Right.
want Tamatoa to quest for more, he's not. If that loses my item advantage with Ariel, that's not great. So now this is
Mhm.
like a better opportunity to just throw down 2 ink or not. Like if you're ramping properly, that extra 2 after Ariel should not be a problem.
Yep. Yep.
That's my 2 cents about your card. I was like, no, she's gonna protect my precious Ariel. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
stoked.
yeah. I think I saw you post about
Yeah,
that on Twitter too.
I mean it.
Well, and and I was looking, because the Lorcana Reddit been going through, of course, all the reveals, and so I couldn't help but go take a look at the comments around the training dummy, and somebody brought up something interesting, to where it was kind of two-sided. So one side is since it doesn't say one of your characters, it just says to a character. Um, if you use
Then
it on
it's
an opposing character's one
mm-hmm,
that you want to attack, but it already has a
mm-hmm.
bodyguard, you just make it a bodyguard and then just smash into it. Um,
Yep,
and then the
yep.
other way around, where if you're playing like an aggro deck or something like that, and you're trying to protect something else, you make one of your little guys, a bodyguard, and then they're forced to attack that one particular thing. Even if I mean, if you have another bodyguard out, you probably wouldn't want to do it. Um, but if you need one to protect something else, then it's perfect. It forces their hand a little bit. So I was like, okay, yeah, I could kind of see that
I like
working,
that.
helping out.
Yeah.
So,
I always
but
just search Reddit for what I want, but I've never been following the Lorcana Reddit. Now I feel like I'm out of the loop completely. I gotta get in there.
no, it's well, and it's interesting, we kind of create similar kinds of content, podcasty kinds of things. but it's interesting to see all these different communities inside of the Lorcana community.
Yeah.
You kind of have certain people that are like Instagram creators and certain people that are podcasters and certain people that do the videos and and I know Reddit's not really a content creation kind of thing, but it is kind of another one of those little sub communities. And
Yeah.
we won't talk about Facebook Lorcana. That's
Oh
just
gosh.
oh
Mhm.
my gosh, that's a whole different world. But
The local groups, they're fun. Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's a whole other beast. Um, Coming from Disney and coming from planning, uh, we have our own opinions about Disney Facebook plan people because they'll be like, I went to
I'm sure.
Disneyland 6 years ago. Here's information, completely outdated,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they will
I know
die on that
everything.
hill. Yeah,
Yeah.
they will die. They will just die on that hill. And they're like, that dragon burned down. I don't know what to tell you. And they'll be like, no, it didn't. I saw it. I have a video. I'm like, okay, mm,
Like, yeah, how old is it? Yeah, okay.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I was talking about how the Little Mermaid ride might get replaced with a Coco ride at DCA, and somebody was like, no, because that's at
Uh,
Hollywood Studios and da da da, da, and that's in Florida. And I was like, what planet am I on? I was like, I
it's like, how long has it
there
been since you've been there? Yeah.
I was like, there is Little Mermaid stuff in there, but that's not like literally not what I'm talking about right now. But anyway, yeah. So I get it about the Facebook. And there
Yeah.
are lovely people there because hey, we're there, like, dodging,
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
There, so it's a fine. I don't want to throw too much shade, but
No, no, absolutely not. No, it's just, and honestly, every platform has its people that are just kind of, you know, just
yes,
like that, and
yes.
they're,
People be
I don't
peopling.
know. I don't know how to put it without without being mean about it, but I don't want to be mean because
People be
everybody
peopling.
deserves to, engage with the community however they want
Yes,
to.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. However they
yeah.
choose. Yep. You're not wrong. I'm a
Well, so
judge.
we,
Sorry, I was feeling a little judgmental.
yeah, no. Oh, so we talked a little bit about, the content creation stuff earlier. I did want to talk more about the Lore Library, the podcast that you're hosting. Um, I'm always curious, I mean, you said you did some of the Disney parks kind of content before. Um, what was the motivation and kind of what are some of the, like, I guess the goals around the Lore Library?
In my DLC adventures and all of this time in the community, I've met so many great people. And I, like yourself, like to amplify those voices, right?
Hmm.
And so I thought, well, this is a great way to amplify voices, but also talk about my favorite thing, which is Disneyland. And I was like, how do I talk about Disney parks and Disney properties and also get, Lorcana people excited about the parks or Disney
Hmm.
stuff, or get parks people excited about Lorcana? Because it would warm my heart, nothing else, than to see a constant rolling group of people who just are constantly playing Lorcana in different corners of the park.
Hmm.
Enough so like, and tell me if this has happened to you, but if you're ever playing Lorcana in a public space that is not like a TCG based space, like
Hmm.
coffee shop, whatever, people will ask like, "Oh, what are you playing? What is that?" And they're
Yeah.
curious because they walk by, they look, and they think they're going to see like Magic the Gathering cards or whatever, and then they see Disney characters and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
hey, like, wait, what is happening here?" And they get interested. So to have that in the park, I think would be great because then you just be selling starter decks like nothing to people, and then they're getting involved. And like on your off day in the park, you're just playing Lorcana in your hotel room and stuff with your kids. And like that's my dream.
Mhm.
So how do I make that dream come true and make my dreams a reality? Well, I thought this might be one of the avenues. Let's just get all the really cool Disney heroes that are Lorcana, Disney heroes to come
Mhm.
talk to the community, and then maybe that would spark, and as well as talk about, the parks, and then that would spark some sort of fire that'll just roll right through all the parks. And everybody playing Lurkon all the time in the parks. So that's the dream.
That would be cool. I would love to see um like learn to play kind of events, that are held
Yeah,
on a more regular basis, so that
yeah,
they can actually
yeah.
get it out there. I mean, I know they sell it at, various stores, on the property and everything, but That's one thing to just walk up and be like, "Oh, this is a fun game. This looks interesting," and another to actually
Yeah.
sit down and really get excited about it, and learn how to
Yeah,
do it.
exactly.
So that'd be interesting. And then we actually have big events happening at the different parks. We
Yeah.
got nationals and all the
Yeah.
other all the and worlds and I guess so the one in Europe is Disneyland Paris, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I thought so.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what those look like compared to the DLCs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to be bigger, more more interesting. But as far as like side events or other things people can do, while they're there that they aren't necessarily competing, they just want to be there. Who knows
Oh
what
my goodness,
those
I'm sorry.
like? Huh?
My dog.
Oh, can't hear
Oh, good. Okay.
him.
Surprising.
No.
Yeah, I really feel like a cosplay contest is overdue.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I know I love seeing the pictures of people that are dressed up for the DLCs. It's really cool to see, some of the costumes are pretty elaborate. I'm pretty
Yeah.
impressed.
The armor that people have been making and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'm
that's
inspired.
crazy. I mean, now obviously those people are experienced in creating, cosplay kind of things, but then, you still have people that I think it was DeCandio that was like Peter Pan for
Hmm.
at least one,
Yeah.
oh, it's interesting. And
I think we've seen Aladdin,
it's yeah, that's right. Um
Mandalorian.
it's it's interesting to me that, when I think about like a competitive kind of environment for a game, I don't really think about people dressing up unless there's like specifically a contest or something like that, for it. But the people that I've seen, they're just doing it because it's fun, and
Yeah.
they like to be able to sit down and play, kind of in character or,
Yeah.
as a character or whatever.
It's been really fun to see.
No. Okay, so back on the lore library. I
Oh,
keep
sorry.
I
Yeah.
keep kind of no, I trust me, I keep wandering around too. So no. So you've got 3 episodes out now. You said
Correct.
you've got
Yeah.
one coming out in the next couple of days, day or two, something like that.
Yeah, it should be so I guess this is coming out Friday, so it'll be already be
Mhm.
out. So, yeah. And because
Nice.
now it comes out on Thursdays. So,
Okay.
I changed, I kind of shifted, did some market research and thought, yeah. So we don't, and we I did end up on a little bit of a hiatus. And so we're rolling back into production. So got some I have an episode with a judge and a competitor coming up, so should be fun.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, it's interesting, and I've talked with this with other content creators and different episodes. How much, I mean, we love the game, right? Obviously. And playing the game takes some time. And then on top of that, you add on doing content creation and coordination and all that. That all takes a whole another chunk of time. But if you're not like passionate about it and really want to make it happen, sometimes it's really hard to get that time and to
Yeah.
say, I'm going to set aside this time, for creating this content. And you have to have that passion. Otherwise, it's just not it's not going to work as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
So let's see. Oh, so you've done the Disney park stuff. Was that the content, was that primarily written or did you do video
So
or
I did,
anything or
yeah, I ended up yeah, I phased through all of the decades. I went through the life journal, I went through the just like personal blog,
Mhm.
website style, and then, graduated into finally settling in Instagram, basically. Been
Okay.
around the Instagram circle for a bit. So yeah.
Okay. Um And now the lore library, you do similar to this. You record on video and then release it as a podcast, correctly?
Yeah,
Correct?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's video
Okay.
on YouTube, and then yeah, I do audio on all of the podcast platforms, and then I do like little shorts for Instagram and whatnot of our highlight clips.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That's something that I've heard a lot of people suggesting. When it comes to, especially if you already have the video content, it's a whole lot easier
Yeah.
to just clip stuff out. But,
Yeah.
again, takes time,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Exactly.
So,
I know YouTube Shorts is a good thing, and for
mhm.
whatever reason I just am not bridging the gap where I'm doing everything on Instagram, making all these reels, but I should be putting them on YouTube as well, you know what I mean? So, but
Yep.
like you said, time. Who has that, right?
Yeah, I know, right. Well, and I think I've said this before, but I'm a big fan of the saying, you have time for what you make time for.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it's a priority, you figure it out, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but so if you had one recommendation for other content creators that maybe they're just starting out or just trying to get established in the community or in the content sphere, what recommendations would you have?
I think the first recommendation is I think what a lot of us say is just start, right? It doesn't have to be
Hmm.
perfect. It has to be done. And you will get the hang of it and it will get better and people will forget your bad stuff and you'll just keep rolling with the good stuff. You know what I mean? That held me back for a long time. I would have been making content like from the get-go, but I was constantly like second guessing that it wasn't good enough. And
Hmm.
that held me back. And that's forever my regret. And so I think like not having to have a polished product is fine. That being said, do follow the community guidelines that are there for fan content, which sometimes
Yep.
involves a little bit of polishing in terms of like your use of their stuff. But and I am a huge stickler when it comes to like visual products. And so just being able to be knowledgeable that there is like fair use guidelines, there's,
Hmm.
little things you have to put on your content quotes and things that you have to put on your pages and ways to handle the watermarks and the logos and whatnot. So definitely educate yourself on that stuff because it is readily available on Ravensburger's website. You can Google,
Yep.
those Ravensburger media assets, Lorcana guidelines, and you'll find it. You know what I mean? But I think those are the things that hold people back of not knowing what's okay. And then they're like, well, then I don't want to do it at all because I don't want to mess up. Just read up on it, get good, and you
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Get
Well,
good.
and it's not like it's overly difficult stuff, right?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what I mean.
it's
Yeah, it's like
put
just
the
read.
just put the disclaimer here.
Yeah.
Do this kind of thing with logos, and they've got it pretty well spelled out, honestly.
Hmm.
Like for the reveal stuff. We were trying to make sure that, like the or for mine personally,
Yeah.
make sure the Azurite Sea logo was, in the right place or you presented correctly, that it had the right amount of space around it, but that's all like
Yeah.
really detailed in there. Which makes it nice. You're not just having to kind of guess about it and say, well, I hope this is right, and I hope they don't give
Yeah.
me a strike for,
Hmm.
for doing it wrong. But,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
think those,
that's.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Find your niche. Find your niche, stick
Mm,
to it, roll with that. And kind of like you'll find your people. You know what I mean? If I've
yeah.
seen some people try to spread themselves too thin. And it kind of leads to them being just, kind of like the old saying of jack of all trades, master at none. And it kind
Yeah.
of, and then you'll burn out because you're trying to like do so many things
Yes.
that you just are like, I don't know where I belong, and then kind of shut down. So yeah, just really think about your niche, what is that, and just, just kind of drive that home.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
Disneyland and accessibility to the product, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there
Like
you go. There you go.
everything falls under that umbrella.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah, that's a lot of things. And it's interesting to me that, because of the game itself, there's a lot of like competitive oriented content out there. And if you just take like a high level view of them, they all kind of look really similar, right? they're discussing the meta, they're discussing, current cards, the future cards for the newer sets and everything. But then when you start really getting down to it, it's more about like the personalities of the people that are involved. Is it just one person, or is it a group of people, that kind of play well off of each other? Um, that has as much to do with the success of something as the actual content itself. If people enjoy listening to or enjoy watching something because it's a little off the wall, like, Lorcana After Dark, or, they really want
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
in depth with, something in the meta, and then they go over and look at all the different content on that side. Everybody kind of finds those things that they like, and, not that you as a content creator should play to that specifically and say, okay, what does everybody like? I should do that kind of content.
right.
You have to balance it with what do you love? What do you enjoy? And then find where those kind of meet up in the middle. Because we've got all sorts of different kinds of content out there. And just
Yeah,
like people can engage with a game multiple ways, there's always different kinds of content and different kind of,
yeah.
creators that kind of bring their own little special something, even if it's similar kind of content to something else that's already out there.
Yeah, I love seeing the highly competitive content, right?
Mhm.
Like lab rats, that's so good to watch. You see, like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have the hand cams and all this stuff, like so great. And then to see the people who are wanting to get to that level and seeing their content and seeing their meta-analysis and but also their like zero to hero stories. Like we had
Hmm.
Brent, he just did a video about his vlog and his experience, getting to Top Cut at DLC. And so that's the kind of thing like you're watching him and you're like, he's not like he hasn't been doing like super sweaty, highly competitive content, but you feel like he's like you and he's gonna get there and you're gonna watch his journey, right?
Hmm.
And then there's the people who are like, I love social play. I love the fact that all of my characters in my deck are all from the same movie. And
Yep.
when I'm playing, I'm imagining them going on these quests. And like I play with someone in locals and he will talk about the cards like Tiana will call her friends on the other side and I draw two cards and these things like this and like he is like and you can tell he is like into the story and what's
Yeah.
happening and just wants to make the most fun decks and doesn't care about the meta, could care less about what anybody has to say about the cards he's building. He is just there to have a fun time with the cards that he likes, and there is content for all of these people and none of it is wrong, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep, definitely. Yeah, it's really cool to see, how many really passionate people we have about creating this stuff. And it does. It takes time to sit down and make the content, to edit, to, to make sure. Well, and then there's all the other stuff that comes with it too, right? The whole marketing aspect of it, getting it
Uh-huh.
out there, promoting it, making sure you're getting in the right places, trying to, reach out for collaborations. And there's all sorts of stuff that kind of
Keeping
comes with
yourself
the
fresh,
package.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah.
And that's why you should be making content that you like to consume because
Mhm.
that will keep you motivated and it will keep those ideas sparked. Like, because as you watch that content that you like and then you want to create content in that vein, you're like, oh, yeah, that's something that I enjoy. That's something I want to do. Or how can I do that in my own way and things like that. Because if you're trying to just create what people want, it's going to be hard to sincerely and authentically create some content because it's not going to come from your heart or what you love or what you, because yeah, just create the content you love to consume. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that's where you're going to shine because then you're going to be developing this really authentic content.
Hmm. And don't be too obsessed with numbers, especially early on.
No, and if you
It could be
don't,
very
then you end up
frustrating.
yeah, you end up with ridiculously good numbers. Like Rebecca was not looking at her numbers at all for a while, and then all of a sudden was like crunching numbers, and then her her numbers are ridiculous.
Yep.
Rebecca Quest is who I'm talking about, and
Mhm.
uh we were doing some shop talk about engagement numbers and whatnot. And I come from PR and marketing degree background of, social media marketing and talking about like, oh yeah, this, percentage of engagement is good. And she's like, well, let me look at mine. Oh, it's 80%. Is that good? I'm like, hmm. It's like I have this many followers, but my reach is
Yeah.
like 150,000 people. Is that a lot? Or and this was like back in the, who knows what it's now, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
like, that's great. Like I'm
Yep.
no, should I just shut mine down or
Well, and that's the other thing, right? Even if you're making similar kind of content to other groups, or other creators, you can't directly compare yourself to them,
no, exactly. Yeah.
especially if they've been established for a while. It's
Yeah.
not like, somebody that does, that starts up a live show, like they do it once a week or something. If they try to compare themselves to the Illumineers, and
And
say, "Oh, well, why
established,
am I not
yeah.
as not as successful?" It's like they're completely negating the whole fact that, that they've been doing that for years now, or I guess probably about a year, a little over a year or something,
Over a
because I
year
think
now,
they
yeah.
started
They just,
before
yeah.
before it was released.
Before the launch of the product, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah,
geez. But
yeah,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like they have the algorithm at their side
yeah.
because they have established traffic to their site that you're not going to enjoy as a new streamer, that they're just not, the algorithm just isn't going to give you until you deliver.
Right.
And so like, yeah, there's, even if their content is, of the same caliber, it's not going to matter to the algorithm if you're new. So
Yep.
then the algorithm wants you to prove yourself first before it starts pumping you out there. And it has nothing to do with like how good or bad it is a lot of the time. It's just if you showed up and showed your face, is pretty much all it wants. So
Hmm. Yep.
consistently. So,
Yes, consistency is a very big piece of it. Yep. It's
feeling very
interesting to
much like,
see.
yeah, yeah. Feeling very much like do as I say, not as I do right now. But yeah. Be consistent, do all these things. And it was just like, oh boy, do I just tell people this all the time as my job? And then I'm like, then I don't have time for my own. But that's fine. I would rather amplify everybody else's. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and there's so many people in the community that that's their perspective too. That it's more about like building each other up and trying to make recommendations about things and suggestions and everybody is really encouraging about it all too.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I was thinking about starting a podcast, and it's like, well, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
Do it.
not?
Yeah.
But
Saturate the
yeah.
space with Lorcana content and they'll have to keep making our product, right? So come
I know, right?
on.
Keep that momentum going for them. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk a little bit about the future of the game, given that we are in the middle of reveal season, or kind of getting towards the tail end of it, actually. Um, with Azurite Sea coming out in what, 2 weeks? Something like that. I think. Yeah.
It's
Um,
yeah, November 15th, correct, for LGS?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Need to
I'm
check something on my phone.
interested to to see is there anything, I mean, you mentioned some of the Big Hero 6 cards and everything. Is there anything in particular that really stands out that you're excited about?
I am very excited for microbots. It's like the puppies of
Yeah.
items.
Yeah.
I'm even
Yeah.
tempted to make a puppy slash item deck and just be a menace. Which just seems wrong, but also right in all the ways. But yeah, I so many good Sapphire cards are coming out.
Hmm.
Yokai in conjunction with the microbots, which I just love a thematic combo that I can use. That's always good.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, the genie card is making me sad as a judge. Um, so
Yeah, I
that's
imagine that
all.
one's going to cause some decent amount of confusion on things.
I
Yeah.
am, yeah, I'm highly disturbed at its ability to confuse so many people. So yeah, Clarabelle and the genie. It's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
it's the new Pete hot topic.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, am I looking forward to it? Yes, it's a good card. Am I looking forward to
Oh
the
yeah.
judge calls attached to it? No, basically.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Any other ones that you're particularly looking forward to? Any deck types or anything that you're looking forward to building?
So I obviously, like I've said, Steel Sapphire is my
Hmm.
driver. But then I'm just thinking maybe Sapphire needs an amber glow up. Mm. So, because we have the Oswald card,
Hmm.
and yep, and he's doing like all kinds of item stuff. So I just feel like a support piece. Like I said, puppies and it's probably not puppies, but more like queens. You know, the queen and the queen sensor core, and
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
but like that in conjunction with some of these Sapphire cards and things that are coming out. Yeah, very, very exciting.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. I
Yeah,
know we still have a decent number of cards left, but we've gotten a lot of really interesting ones this week and more to come, I'm sure, given
yeah.
that it's we're recording this on Wednesday, so the week's not even done with yet.
I am still looking for a legendary pirate princess. So hopefully that's
Mm-hmm.
to be decided, or to be announced. I also very, very much want an enchanted Pooh Bear. So
Yep. Yeah.
I know that we have a Pooh Pirate. He has his own ship. Pooh Pirate ship is a card. So if he doesn't have an enchanted, like I Riot, I know Kim well too. That's her homie. That's her number one. So
Hmm.
yeah, I at one of our set champs I dressed up as the Honey Wizard Pooh Bear. So and she dressed up as
Oh yeah, I
Piglet.
remember that.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yep.
we have some vested interest there.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what the Enchanteds look like for this set.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess they don't really do those until pretty late
like
in the
near
game,
the
but
end. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but
I
yeah,
was
I selfishly would like to see the big yokai as a enchanted.
okay.
I think that one would look pretty awesome, but
Its abilities are pretty good. That would be a good one.
it
I want
is.
another
Yeah.
morph.
Uh, poor
He's my
Morph.
homie.
He was so hot there for so long, and
He's
yeah,
coming, he's getting a glow up.
yeah.
His enchanted was about 100, 130 during Las Vegas times. It's around the 250 mark now.
Oh
So
wow. Okay.
he's yeah, the new a fair amount of people are running him in Emerald Steel. So
Mm-hmm.
and then people like to play with the enchanteds when they come to the DLC. So it
Right.
ran up the prices of it. It's fun. It's fun. So he was
Yep.
my chase. I finally got one. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. He was my number
So,
one. But yeah,
one other kind of interesting thing that I'm curious about what your speculation is. Somebody noticed the other day that the numbering on the cards is slightly off.
yeah.
Um, I'm interested to hear what you think is the deal with that.
So explain to me about the numbering because what I'm seeing is that like what I've heard is that we have like an extra card or something in Amethyst.
Hmm.
Is that correct? But I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
keep
that was the
track
one
of
they
the numbering.
noticed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't keep track of like the way the numbering system even works or things like that. So is the theory that somehow we're getting more cards per color and therefore more cards
Well,
overall?
so
Or is it
somebody
that we're gonna
asked.
shift type
Yeah, I don't see that's the
and get like
thing.
a new type?
So somebody asked in the official Discord about it.
Hmm.
And the answer for number of cards was no, the number of cards for each ink is staying the same.
Okay.
But that means, it's always been consistent through the sets, right? And so
Hmm.
now you start looking at these, the numbering on them, and it was one off from where it was supposed to be. So, I've seen all sorts of people speculating about all sorts of things,
I
dual
can
color
imagine.
cards,
Yeah,
no
I
color
think it's
cards.
I think it's to be a new type.
Yeah.
The reason why I think that is because of the way that they're wording things for the abilities in terms of like especially like with the card, right?
Hmm.
So circling back to Genie when he says like when you play a card, right? And now we're having like a big discussion of like when is a card played? Is Genie played until he play himself? Blah blah blah. So And then the kind of speculation is like, well, maybe because other types of things are coming out, so they had to just say card because they can't say like specify location
Right.
type or character type or things like that. So,
Yeah,
um,
I could see it.
and that would yeah. So if it was so critical, because they were like, there was some like official developer interjection about in order for the templating to have for future things, we had to say the word card essentially.
Hmm.
So. Hmm.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah,
be
I really,
interesting.
yeah, I really
Hopefully,
don't. Yeah, I'm
well, and then
very,
if it is a new type, then that's something to look forward to as a judge, right?
yeah,
Some more confusion around something else. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's just I enjoy it because it keeps me fresh. Then I get to reread the
Hmm.
corrective rules or the comprehensive rule document. Keeps me keep. It's just an opportunity for growth. Hey,
Yep.
um,
There you go. Nice positive spin on it. Yep.
yeah. Every
Yes.
challenge is an opportunity for growth, honestly.
Yeah,
So,
this is true. Yep. Yep. Well, Sarah, I have really, really enjoyed getting to talk with you and getting to catch up on
yeah.
everything you're doing. Tell people, oh, no, actually, we have to answer those questions. Okay, so I think I know the answers to this. Um, favorite ink and card right now.
Favorite ink and card right now is our Sapphire Mufasa one in play.
Okay,
That
nice.
legendary Mufasa. Yeah, love him. Just re-ready all that ink that I just flooded into my ramp and just
Hmm.
fire rapid fire. How about a Diamond Automatoa all at the same time? Why not? So yeah,
Just
no, it's
lay
good
it
times.
all out.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love it. I love it. So yeah. And the art, perfect. Yeah.
Yep. That is a very pretty card. Both versions of it, really.
Yeah.
Um, okay, favorite Disney movie and why?
I love the live action original Mary Poppins.
It's a good one.
My grandmother was born and raised in England, and I just kind of had a relatability thing there where I was just like, it's just like my grandma. So, and I love the Sherman Brothers and the story
Mm-hmm.
of Feed the Birds and how Walt would listen to it in his office every Friday. Do you know this story?
No, I don't.
Oh, let's hope I don't cry. The
No.
Sherman Brothers, who did a lot of the songs from Mary Poppins and
Hmm.
many other Disney things, did the Feed the Birds song. One of the Shermans had a piano and in his, office, in the studio, and
Hmm.
Walt would come on Fridays before going home and ask him to play. He would just say, play it. He wouldn't even have to tell him which one. He would play Feed the Birds to Walt.
No.
And yeah, it was Walt's favorite song. So
No. No, I didn't know that. Learned
yeah,
something new.
the actress that plays the homeless lady in the movie was actually a
Hmm.
very well-known actress, and he treated her like she was the star of the show when she was there for that day. So yeah, lots of things that are tied to that that make me
Yeah.
sentimental. So
No.
I'm a very sentimental person. So
Well, that's cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and final thing, where can people find you and your content?
So if you're at the DLC, please come find me when I'm not in my judge shirt. And I have these ink tokens, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So I'll be giving these out, and please come and find me. These are my Lore Library ink tokens. So I'm usually at the DLC. If you can't find me there, if you don't happen to be there, then you can find me on Instagram at Lorcana Librarian or on X as a Lore Librarian. And obviously on every podcast platform you can find for Lore Library podcasts as well as on YouTube.
Nice. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again so much. Enjoyed the chat. Thanks for sitting down with me and taking the time to to go
Yeah, of
through all
course,
this.
anytime.
And yeah, oh no, it's and like I said, I love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank you for all the
Thank you.
work you put into it. I know, it takes time and and effort.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, I
I'm
appreciate
definitely
it.
hitting those learning curve bumps. So, but yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah, I everybody does. It's,
Mhm.
there's always something new to learn. Never fails.
Yeah, Yeah. And then your computer just is like, nah, girl.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it just kind of fights against you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. All right, well, cool. Well, thank you again, and
Yeah.
see you around the community. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe and rate or like us on your platform of choice. If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can email us at lorcanachats@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter or X at LorcanaChats, the podcast at podcast.lorcanachats.com, or just lorcanachats.com. We love feedback on the show, and let us know if there's anyone you'd like to hear from in the Lorcana community. See you next time.